And as we read today, we have an accounting of, finish up the counting of the Levites and their jobs, the gifts that they received from 12 princes of Israel, of the tribes, and all the things they provide for the tabernacle, um, uh, for the altar, and so forth. And then inside there comes this interesting tidbit called, we refer to as the waters. This ordeal of the bitter waters, Israel creates, when the children of Israel, Moses is up on the mountain receiving the Torah. They built this, okay? And so they built this golden calf, and they're saying they're not building necessarily an idol of some other god or anything. They're making a representation of what they understand God to be like, okay? They don't know what God looks like, so they're trying to go with something that they understand as representing, right? As its strength, beauty, and so forth, right? That's what they're looking at. He breaks the tablets of stone. He drops them at the base of the mountain and breaks them. Why? Because Israel is not worthy to receive these commandments, right? Written by God, hewn out of the rock by God. They're not ready to receive. And I know in the movie the story is that he dropped them, let them break, um, and then he took the calf and pounded it into dust, right? And he takes the dust and he puts it in a cup of water to he causes Israel, all of Israel, to drink from it, right? And then he asks, "Who is with me? Who is with God and who is with me?" The whole tribe of Levi comes, stands before Moses, and Moses gives them the order: go throughout all the tribes, brother, sister, her wife, cousin, father, whatever, whoever is sick, this golden calf. They know who to kill, right? This is our first understanding of the ordeal of bitter waters, because idolatry and adultery are the same thing. One is committed against God, spouse, okay? And that's why it says there um, in the commandments there, they both go back and forth. The second commandment and the seventh commandment. The second commandment, seventh commandment. One is idolatry, same thing. Work together in this. And so it goes through just like here about the ordeal of the bitter waters, is that those that gold dust was put in, their parts up, and you could killed. It said that there was about 3,000 people that were killed. So about 3,000 people caused Israel, out of 3 million, that's not even, that's barely 1%, caused Israel to sin. Why? Why did they? Because they're making the loudest noise. We've got these and big business in with them going, yeah, we're going to do this, including you've got banks now, no problem, dictating how you're going to spend your own money, and that's the same thing. You're going to this e-currency, That's what they get to do. That's what that whole plan, that they can decide what you can buy and what you can't buy, what you can spend your hard money with on. They get to decide, not you. That's why we need to stay away from that. But the thing is that Israel to against God. And so all of Israel paid for her, stood up and was killed according to Jewish tradition. That her stood up against this group and they killed him, which is kind of what we see today with Antifa, the Black Panthers, and these other groups. Black Lives Matter out there. If you don't agree with them, they will beat you up, they will kill you, and at this point, law enforcement isn't doing anything about it. They're letting them go ahead and do it. But if you stand up for right, there's people there for a couple of years now, haven't gone to trial yet or anything. So, so our government is standing with them, and because of that, it's going to bring curses on our country, which we're already starting to see. High inflation, the criminals and stuff having free reign, the lawyers and DAs letting them go without bail, and in some cases not even charging them for anything. And so what we see here is that when a husband becomes jealous of his wife, and I'm going to say this right out, and I don't care what people think, the reason why a husband would become jealous of his wife, more than not, probably 90% of the reason is that the husband probably did something on his own that he wasn't supposed to do, and now he's become jealous of his wife. But the women that are in there are actors or actresses. They're acting a part, but they're portraying women. That's why a lot of women's groups are against pornography, because it belittles the woman. It makes women, and they're not. They're not supposed to be. And so men think that the women in these magazines and movies are, including men who are married, that their wives are out cheating on them and doing all these different things, and so they get jealous of them, right? Even though the husband is probably the one who has done something in his heart, or maybe he has done it himself and not said anything. So he gets jealous of his wife, and so he accuses her of this dreadful sin, right? Trying to find it here. Oh yeah. In chapter 5, verse 11, it starts out. If goes astray, she becomes a sota, who goes astray to commit adultery, versus sata, one who goes astray. Sota, right? Tell the people of Israel, if a man's wife goes astray and is unfaithful to him, that is, if another man goes to bed with her without her husband's knowledge. Now here's the difference. She's not caught, so nobody knows about it except for the two of them. The difference with the death penalty is that the man and the woman are caught. Then they are to stand trial, both of them, and then they are to be put to death for committing adultery. And yes, that does mean jealousy can be as a woman and a man who aren't married, one married, one maybe not, or whatever, but not to each other, spending a lot of time together. And sometimes jobs do that too, but it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody committed adultery, but it's the appearance of evil. We're supposed to stay away from the appearance of evil. We're not to be alone with our wife or our husband. I mean, I know sometimes, like if you have a plumber come out or somebody like that, the best thing to do in that case, and it has to be a male or a female, is to maybe leave the house or something. Just go outside, whatever, so people can see that there's nothing going on here. They're just doing it. But it does happen. People are people, things, and they come to conclusions that a lot of times aren't true. And they will say to the husband, "Hey, my wife was seen with so and so. We don't know what they were doing," right? That's the same thing with what Yeshua was brought up against with the woman that the religious leaders brought to him, saying she was caught in adultery. Well, there's definitely a couple things wrong with that. One, where's the man? Because if they're caught in adultery, the man would be standing there too, together. Okay. Two, who were the witnesses? Okay. Yeshua didn't even really ask for that. He basically looked at her, truth, whether she did or not. He told them because he knew their hearts. Whoever is without sin cast the first. Probably talking about the sin of adultery, or in this case, fornication. It could be. If you and then he began to sin, and pretty soon they were all gone. There was nobody there, and Yeshua says, "Where are your accusers?" And she says, "There are none." And he says, "I don't accuse you either. Go and sin no more." Right? They were trying to use her as a way to see what his Torah judgment would be, his Beit Din, his understanding of the laws of Moses would be. But because there were no witnesses, and remember, a false witness who testifies, especially in a death penalty situation, just to get somebody into trouble, if it's found out, then that's what they were trying to do. So if they were trying to get a person killed or the property taken away or whatever it might be, that happens to them if they're found to be a false witness, because they are doing treachery against somebody. And in this case, the woman who's jealous, and she may have and she may not have. What's interesting about this whole thing, being an embarrassment to the woman for sure, if she's not guilty, being afraid that she might get caught now is another thing. But in this instance, what we've read of the happened in history, especially with the church, but it's not just the church, it was for a witch. Well, a witch will float, so if you float, then you're a witch. But if you are dunked and you can't float, well, then you're innocent, but you're dead. You know, so either way, you're going to die, right? Other things that they used to do, that no matter what, which was stupid, that was adversary. You know, that's just complete idiotic stupidity on their part. What God did, though, is He had them take holy water, right, and just take a little bit of dirt off the floor of the tabernacle, right, put it in there, write the curse on a scroll with God's name, and then wash it off in the water, right? Only time that we're allowed to erase God's name is at that ceremony, okay? Otherwise, we know that when where God's name is, we do not desecrate the paper or whatever is written on. That's why we don't use whiteboards and chalkboards. If we do, we don't write God's name on there. We might write the abbreviation. And it's not God's name. So we have to be careful of that. But in this instance, they erase God's name into the water. The ink goes into the water with the parchment erased on there. and then she drinks the water. Now the thing is, there's nothing in the water that's going to hurt her. So the supernatural part of it is one, or two actually, two, a good and a bad. If she is guilty, then the water will become bitter, and it will rot her private parts and ugly, ghastly, you know, um, so that you can see that people can see that, oh, she sinned, she committed adultery and got caught by God, went through and she will die, right? A lot of times, according to Jewish tradition too, is that a lot of times there were about two twin girls, wives married to different husbands, that one of them secretly committed adultery with somebody else, and her husband became jealous, and he was going to take her to this, and so she told her sister about it. So her sister said, well, I haven't done it, so let me go in your place, okay, and I'll take your place for it, and because I'm innocent, so it won't affect me then. She does, and it doesn't affect her, and she goes and tells her sister all this great news and stuff, and she kisses her, and the water was lips caused her sister to then die. So no matter what, you don't get away from God's judgment. But it's an interesting story. No matter what we try and do to get away with something, God sees things. He knows, right? Now, the other supernatural thing, remember, that was supernatural. Nothing in the water that was going to hurt her, but yet, if she was guilty, it would, okay? If she's not guilty, it says that she would be fruitful. She will be able to have children. Huh? Multiply, exactly. And what's funny about this whole thing is that now we know that according to the Torah, only a husband can divorce his wife, but a wife can't divorce her husband. But the thing is, a lot of people don't realize that the woman could get a divorce from her husband. There's still, even to this day, Orthodox groups that when a man refuses to divorce his wife and stuff, there's a group of Orthodox men that that will go and find a husband and do what needs to be done to make him give her a get, to get her divorced. Yeah, physical violence at many times to get him to do what's right. So she can do that. And if her husband is refuses to give her a get, even if he's off doing whatever, they will follow him. And we've had that happen here in the United States. There's been many cases that have been brought because of these groups. And divorce isn't to be something that's because your food is not a reason to get divorced. Okay? It because accidents happen, you know, and yeah, and so or even these foolish things. Well, we've fallen out of love. Well, you know what? That's too bad. Love's got nothing to do with marriage, anyways. It's a part of it. And two people attracted should be attracted for the right reasons. Part in it, but it's not the biggest part. And just because that the only reason you guys got married is because of lust or something stupid. And if you're married, you should stay married. Work on it. That's the best thing you can do is work on your relationship. Build it. Even if you don't love them anymore. Um, Marriage counselors out there, godly marriage counselors. There's also ungodly marriage counselors I would say stay away from. But godly marriage counselors, even some pastors or even some rabbis stay away from because they're not good. If the good sign of a good marriage counselor, pastor, or rabbi is that for a husband and wife that comes to see them, or a husband or a wife, is that the rabbi, pastor are not alone. If a rabbi is counseling a female, he will have his wife with him to counter any sayings or anything that might come from it, right? Vice versa. A man can counsel another man, a woman can counsel another woman. But a woman, as we've got woman pastors, woman pastor counsels a man without her husband there, that's wrong too. That's the same thing. I mean, we went to true prophet. Even true prophet is someone that doesn't God's Torah is still any day. If they say that it's been done with other things, then they are a liar and they are not a prophet. They're not to be listened to. But in this sense, a good counselor is going to do what's right and not put themselves into a position, because I've seen it. I've seen where pastors have put themselves into a position and they've committed adultery, they've been forced out of ministry, they've been divorced, they lose their witness for God. Not only that, but they are blaspheming God's name. We got to be careful, because that's the third commandment, is don't take the name of the Lord your God in vain. What does that mean? God's reputation is, he will not let someone skate by when they take his reputation through the mud, just like what happened with David and Bathsheba. We've talked about this before. David committed adultery with Bathsheba. He tried to hide it, ended up having her husband murdered, and then he married her because she was pregnant, because of all this. Excuse me. And the prophet came and told him the story, and he got all mad and realized, and Nathan said, well, that person is you. And God said for his judgment, he wasn't going to die because of the adultery. He wasn't going to die, but that the child born that was going to be born would die. Which mamzer anyways are not welcome into the community of God anyhow. But that baby would die in his place. Not because of the adultery, not because of the murder, but because he caused God's reputation to be dragged through the mud by God's enemies, by the enemies of Israel. Huh? So, getting back to this, God causes, if the woman is guilty and all these things, she'll die, okay? But if she's not, don't think the husband gets out of this, because he accused a daughter of Israel of something. He's not allowed to divorce her. He can't divorce her ever. He cannot. Is somebody right? Because embarrassing your wife like that, and accusing your wife of something as horrendous as that, but she'll learn to forgive him, and that's what we need to do. He will repent and change, make not just physical but spiritual changes in his life to be the proper husband that he should be, and not going around doing the things he was doing before. Or the two of them learn not to be predicaments that might cause people to think that they're doing something inappropriate. It, yeah, okay. Anyways, and modesty also is that if you go in an Orthodox community, a man will not shake a woman because as the cause a man to lust. Okay, it can cause that. The same way with a woman shaking a man's hand. But a man and man will shake, and not even, yeah, you better be careful of hugs too, because that can. I know, I'm a hugger. You know, I like to hug, but never think of it as that, you know. So be careful. If my wife is there, I can give somebody a hug, you know. But we got to be careful that it's not evil. I know, but you know, some people are just that way. And be careful. People are weird, yes. So, so the thing is not to do things that give the. Like I said, I like to hug people, especially if I see somebody that's you know, sad and down and stuff. I want to try and lift them up, but we got to be careful of that. There's some situations where I won't hug a person, and there's others that have a problem with it. But still, we need to be careful, right? Now, I can hug my daughters. They're my daughters. But they're my daughters. My daughters can hug their brothers, and I can hug my wife and my mother and my mother-in-law, right? Okay? They're close family. Hug, yeah. But the husband, because he caused embarrassment and shame to a daughter of Israel, cannot divorce. I know a lot of people say, well, you mean she's stuck with this guy who did this? Not necessarily. Oh. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anyways, way that the rabbis did come up with later, that if you get 100 rabbis to sign the divorce, that she could divorce her husband. But that's more of a modern thing. It's, you know, 1,000 years. Just like in Christian, multiple wives. You know, and the reason why men don't have the same thing is because that was then. Then they, in the year 1000, the rabbis got together and changed it, did multiple marriage, multiple spouses and stuff, called it a sin, especially since God didn't give Adam, Eve, and some other women. He just gave Adam and Eve and called for a husband and wife, not a husband and wives, and so forth like that. The justification for that, yes.
Okay, so this is making me here at my school. Um, there was one time she was, well, first of all, so she's gay, and secondly, there was one time where she was talking about how she wants all the women and all the men, and she's married right now, and also talking about her guy friend who, when she goes out to drink or something, she'll bring him with. And if some weirdo walks up or whatever, they'll just pretend that they're married. And when she said that, I was like, this literally just sounds like you're cheating on your husband.
Yeah. Here now, the other thing that's interesting to note is that in Judaism, we also teach that a woman's tears are more important and will be heard by God more than a man's prayer. So if you are sinning against your wife, if you're causing your wife harm, um, God's going to hear her tears before your prayers. And He will do what's needed. People talk about divorce and that Jesus forbid divorce. Well, He didn't forbid divorce. It was given to Moses because of the hardness of man's heart. But divorce wasn't just any reason, out of love or the burnt cooking or whatever it is. Divorce was basically sexual impropriety. God doesn't want you to stay with a spouse that physically beats you or mentally berates you. If you can work, get them that, and they're unwilling to make a change, I'm sorry, but you need to get out of it. God does not want you in that situation. You should never have gotten in that situation in the beginning. I'm sure that you would have, you knew that they were like this before, that you came up with reasons to overlook it, to justify it. But it can't be justified. I'm sorry. In a relationship where you're constantly, where your husband is not honoring you, not loving you like he's supposed to, right? Wives are to submit to their husbands, not to submit to, which I've seen pastors and stuff, women and stuff, or even to the men say your wife should be submitting to you, even if it means you have to beat them. Well, that sounds Islamic, right? That's what they have there. His wife, not who treats her as a slave or servant. Disrespectful. That's not love. That's selfishness. That's eyes. Period. Okay. And it's vice versa. A husband should be putting up a wife. A friend whose wife was very mean, and even several times where she stabbed him. But his pastor that said that he needs to be more authority over her and even get with her, but that's not right. We don't do that. She knew she would get a beating, and eventually, and they had several kids together, but he ended up killing her, shooting her, because he could. He ended up in prison, of course, for many, many years. He got out recently, but his children were there when he killed her. As far as I know, the children don't have anything to do with him now. He listened to the pastors, even the woman's pastor, told her that she needs to submit more to him, which was so wrong, very wrong. So, but here we have the possibility. We don't do this today. We don't have the bitter waters today because there's no temple, right? And it would only be done in Israel. But we still need to think about God. And I heard this thing too. There's that old saying, WWDJ, I think it is. Or JD, what would Jesus do? And I like what this other guy said. Not what would Jesus do. Yeshua would do. And we know he was an observant rabbi, an observant Jew, a rabbi, a Pharisee. He wouldn't put up with this stuff, right? We shouldn't either. Day tomorrow, so I say Happy Father's Day to all you fathers.
Happy Father's Day.
And I implore you to love your wives as Yeshua loved the Messianic community and gave himself for it. I love your kids. But love your wives. Remember, they're there as your helpmate. Eve was not created to be a servant to Adam, right? He was there as a helpmate. That's what he even says. We all have our different parts as males and females, okay? We're not equal in that sense, but we are equal in the mission that God has given us. When I keep me from going the wrong direction, you know? That's one thing a helpmate does. And when you're in ministry, it's not your, see, a lot of males like to say, it's my ministry. Well, I'm sorry, this isn't my ministry. This is mine and my wife's. We're in this ministry together. We work in it together.
Teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork. Why? Because we are helping each other. She's helping me, I'm helping her. Husbands out there do dishes. So you go do the cooking and stuff, right? Not very many. Not very many. Yep. Yeah. Burnt out. That's why husbands and wives work together, help each other out. Dad, when my that, and she took care of twins. Work over for her, so she could. Okay, that's what we need to. That's what we really need to. We need, you know, a husband and wife should serve each other. Serving each other, serving God. Each other. Submitting to God's authority over us. Together. When one switch together. All right. We'll bow our heads for the. And yes, so my oldest son's birthday today. He's 32. So happy birthday, Francis.
Happy birthday.
So, all right. So, bow our heads for the priestly blessing. I love all my children very much. And none more than the other, just so you got that.
I thought you said and Matt more than
No. And none more than the
Of
other.
course you do. He's the best.
Yeah. So. All right. Our God and God of our fathers, the Torah written by the hand of Moses, your servant, his sons, the priests. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord make his face shine on you. Your will. May the Lord turn his face toward you. Peace. Your will. Yevarech Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom. We all had a great Shavuot and hope everybody has a good fire. Being fast. We're going to get influence during our weather. Tonight we have our Torah at 7. No longer have the Wednesday night study until fall. Take a break from that a little bit. Be praying for Cheryl. She's going to California Monday to go down to cities and taking an old plant that she used to take care of in Chisholm to California. She wanted Cheryl to take her to see her son and stuff in California. So she's gonna it's all paid for and stuff. Safety for them and stuff too. So keep them up in prayer. And my stepsister Amanda and her fiance are getting married today, Michael. So we'll be praying that they have a great wedding. Everything goes well for their marriage and stuff. So it's Father's Day, so I hope you all have a good day tomorrow. So Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Shabbat Tov.